So it is 100 days since Hamas carried out those attacks, and a lot of reflection on what's happened since, but also where to from now for this war. Joining me now is Middle East specialist and former Australian ambassador to Lebanon, Ian Parmeter. Thank you for your time. 100 days in, I suppose it's a good time to take stock on what has happened. A summary, I guess, of what's happened in those 100 days, I suppose, compared to perhaps expectations on how things would play out after those terror attacks on October 7th.
I think everyone would have been hoping that the whole issue would have been solved within 100 days. The fact that it's got to 100 days with Israel really not very much closer to achieving its military objectives, and at this stage still with about 130 hostages held by Hamas, but it will be of great concern to Israelis. The thing about the war itself is that the way it's going, it could well be going for another 100 days, which really must fill us all with dread, given the appalling casualties of Palestinian civilians that we've seen. But in some ways as well, it's a very useful time for Penny Wong to be making a visit to Israel at this stage. She has put out a press release which is remarkably nuanced in terms of the messages that she says she'll be delivering. And she said that she'll be making the point to the Israelis that Australia supports their right to defend themselves, but that the way that Israel defends itself matters. She also will be pointing out very much along the lines that Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, and President Biden had, that the number of civilians killed in Gaza has been far too many, and that Israel needs to change its tactics for the war. I assume that Israel itself is going to be criticising Australia over quite a few things itself. I mean, the fact that we've made no comment at all on the South African case in the International Court of Justice will be something that Israel will be seeking an explanation from her on.
Yeah, we seem to want to sort of sit on the fence on that one. I guess there's only so many times you can do that if you continue to be asked. We'll see if there's further comment. I know that the PM didn't want to go any further today. When we talk about Israel tactics, I guess they're strongly related to objective. The objective, in one sense, hasn't changed. They said they wanted to destroy Hamas militarily, but is it clearer what that means now and how that's achieved? And I guess, crucially, what happens if there is a vacuum afterwards, even if Hamas is weakened and they're not in power? Is it going to be a more radicalised party group in its place?
That's the worry that close analysts of the situation in Gaza have at this point, because Prime Minister Netanyahu has not set out what he sees as being an alternative governance mechanism for the Gaza Strip. I mean, the 2.3 million, roughly, people, obviously about 20 to 30,000 have now been killed, but these people aren't going to go away. And governance in that area is going to be vital. If Israel does manage to destroy Hamas as a governing entity, the question of what might take its place is still very unclear. The American administration has said that they want the Palestinian Authority, which is the secular arm of the Palestinian movement in the West Bank, to essentially take over the Gaza Strip on behalf of Israel. But Israel, in the form of the Prime Minister, has said that Netanyahu has said that he won't accept what he calls Hamastan or Fatahstan, Fatah being, of course, the party that controls the Palestinian Authority. So the question of just what might take Hamas's place is still very unclear. But it's worth bearing in mind that Prime Minister Netanyahu has enunciated three objectives for the war. One, of course, is the elimination of Hamas. The second one, of course, is the obtaining the release of all of the hostages. And the third one is ensuring that Gaza is no longer a threat to Israeli security. And how you get all of those three together is very unclear. It could take a very long time. And that's the worry that the international community has.
Yeah.